Listen. Tell us about the repercussions of Obama's foreign policy.
All right. Well, Obama is dithering now, it appears, all over the world. His credibility is really up in smoke. This is the latest. The Obama administration has been trying to garner a peace deal in the Middle East, especially between the Palestinians and the Israelis. But the Palestinians, Abbas, the leader of the Fatah party, has made a deal now with the leader of Hamas. And Hamas is a sworn enemy of the state of Israel. They have pledged to destroy the state of Israel. So basically, Fatah and Hamas have formed a unity government, meaning that the entire peace process between the Palestinians and the Israelis is dead. It's over.
Wow.
And you have to ask the question, why is it dead? Why did Abbas make this deal with Hamas? And it's because everybody around the world perceives that there is now a power vacuum, and they're not willing to follow American leadership. The Obama administration has tried very, very hard to bring about peace there, and John Kerry has flown so many times to try to broker some kind of a peace deal. And essentially now, Benjamin Netanyahu has said there is no peace deal. This whole thing is dead.
Yeah.
And it shows you that American leadership is dead. And that is also apparent in Japan. The president is now on an Asia trip, and he is there to reassure the Japanese that if China flexes its muscle and seizes some islands that belong to the Japanese but the Chinese think are theirs,
right,
that if China makes a move, the president is there to reassure the Japanese that we're going to stand with them. But nobody believes that. And
right.
In fact, at a press conference, he was asked, well, are you going to stand with the Japanese and draw red lines like the same kind of red lines that you drew in Syria? So you see this questioning of him. And why not? Because Putin continues to make a royal fool out of our president.
Right.
Putin has now 40,000 troops. They are moving slowly beyond the Crimea. They've annexed Crimea. They are now wreaking havoc within Ukrainian cities in eastern Ukraine. So they've got their 40,000 troops there. And this week, the Pentagon announced that we're going to be sending 150 American troops to Poland and 450 American troops to the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. So, Carl, you do the math on this one.
Yeah.
That's 600 American troops that we're sending to our NATO allies, and that is meant to scare 40,000 Russian troops.
Listen, Dr. Gray, and by the way, I've got my headphones fixed, so I heard all of that you just said. Yeah, it is astounding. And as I think about, I was going to ask you, what is your prognostication on Ukraine and Russia? Do you think Russia is going to go ahead and march right in and take Ukraine? I mean, this is bringing back memories to me of Russia's march on Hungary back in the 50s, 54, 55, 56. I mean, I was just 1 or 2 years old then, but I've read about it. And I mean, it's almost identical. And for those that are older than I am and live that history, this ought to be sending chills up your spine. What do you think they're going to do, Dr. Grace?
Carl, if you put a jug of honey in front of a bear, the bear is going to gobble up the honey. And that's what the Russians are doing, because what they did was first they took a chunk out of, they first took two territories from Georgia during the Bush years. But Bush had put in place a missile European defense shield, which was telling them, hey, guys, you know what, we're serious about confronting you guys if you go too far. But what Putin did was he tested the groundwork with Crimea, and he saw there was no pushback whatsoever. And I said from the start, he's going to take Crimea, he's going to take the rest of Ukraine, he's going to take Belarus, he's going to take Moldova, and you mark my words, he's going to make a play for the Baltic states.
Right.
And the reason he's going to do that, and I've said this too, if I were advising him, I would say you go ahead and do it, because you got a key window of opportunity now. This president is weak. His poll numbers are underwater on almost every single category, and you should do it now before the Republicans possibly gain control of the Senate, before there's possibly a Republican president in the next election. Now America is at its weakest. And you have all the sharks, all the bears, all the snakes coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
And why shouldn't they? If I were one of them, if I were advising Putin, I would say, you go and you just keep right on going.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the weak resistance that he has gotten. He's gotten no resistance from the Ukrainians to begin with.
Right.
No resistance from the feckless Europeans.
Right.
And just a bunch of talk and useless sanctions from the United States.
And that's the very, very same thing that happened when Russia invaded Hungary. I mean, actually, there was a revolution, a revolt, and then Russia came in. But the same thing that happened. America delivered a lot of rhetoric, and in the end, they provided no help. And it looks like the very same thing is going to happen. Listen, you're going to have to excuse me, Dr. Grace. I know what I'm going to say next is awfully cynical and very conspiratorial, reeks of conspiracy theories. But do you remember, I know you remember, this is rhetorical, do you remember right before this last election when the open microphone between Obama and Medvedev was rolling, and he said to him, you know, wait till after I win this next election, or wait till after I go in this next time, and we'll, you know, I forgot exactly what he said, but basically, you know, we'll work things out with your boss. Well, of course, who was Putin?
He basically said that Obama said in that open mic that he would have more maneuvering room, more flexibility in his second term.
I know, and so now, within a year after him saying that, Putin lines up to invade Ukraine, and Obama basically is doing nothing. And it's awfully cynical, but it makes one wonder what's really, really going on behind the scenes. Rarely, what we see on the news, rarely is that what is really happening.
Well, you know, we know that this president really thought he was going to reset relations. You know, he did think that in collaboration with Putin that they were going to reduce nuclear armaments. So we don't really know what that meant, that meant when he was telling them that I'm going to have more flexibility.
Right.
Did he think he's going to have more flexibility to do more arms reduction? Or is there something more cynical there? We just really, really don't know.
Right.
But what we know is that the reset has been a colossal failure. And we know something else, too. Talk about open mics. If you Google Putin on the Internet, it's all over the YouTube, at one point, he says to his advisors, and this was caught on an open mic, he says, this guy is and it's a very crude, ugly word. It's a Slavic word. I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
But what it means is he's a weakling that I can basically take advantage of. But it's a very famous, crude, disgusting Slavic expression that I know very well because I'm married to a Slavic man, and I know all their disgusting expressions. But